This is Support is Sexy, episode 217. Why you always lose at the waiting game. Welcome to Support is Sexy. I'm your host, Elayne Fluker, entrepreneur, author, and founder of Chic Rebellion Media. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I interview inspiring women entrepreneurs who share their wins and their lessons to help you take your business and your life to the next level and create something sexy. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Support is Sexy. I'm so excited to have you here. You know, it just would not be the same without you. And today I wanted to share with you all something that has been coming up time and again recently. You know, I always pay attention when things come up 1, 2, 3, especially times. I want to talk to you all about it because I want to find the lesson in it, whether it's a lesson for me or something that I think people keep asking about. Maybe it's something I can share from my own experience. Something that's been coming up both in casual conversations and within my mastermind. You know, I have a mastermind. We get together, we talk about different things that are going on, also in other groups and environments that I'm in. This idea of the waiting game. I'm waiting until fill in the blank before I start my business. I'm waiting until fill in the blank before I have children. I'm waiting until fill in the blank before I start a relationship. That's one of my hang-ups and limiting beliefs, if you will. We're always waiting for something. And what that really is, most times, is not that we need that other thing to move forward. We're often using that other thing as an excuse for why we're not moving forward. Again, we often don't need that thing that we're waiting for in order to move forward. We're often using that other thing as an excuse as to why we can't move forward. And I speak about this from experience. Many times, I just mentioned the relationship piece. There have been other things in my business, in my life, where I've said, I need to wait until fill in the blank excuse before I do the dream of whatever I want to do. Really, it was an excuse and not something I actually needed. Sometimes there is some training or this or that you need, but I almost don't even want to say that because people say, right, that's exactly why I'm doing it. I need you to be honest with yourself. And sometimes that takes help with a coach, a therapist, a friend who can really be real with you and say, you're BSing, that's an excuse. That is not a reason. So with that in mind, I wanted to share what I think or what I have experienced I'm really waiting for when I say I'm waiting for something else. So the kind of form or the shape or the truth of what it really is that I'm waiting for. The first thing is perfection. Right? Some people say, I'm a perfectionist, so I can't do it until it's perfect. Well, the truth about that is it's never going to be perfect. So as much as we pretend, whatever you want to do will never be perfect. And you might say, oh, well, till I think it's perfect. Well, if you're a perfectionist and it's never going to be perfect, you're never going to think it's perfect. It's all an excuse. We say we're a perfectionist or we want it to be perfect, or sometimes I've had friends say, I can't put it out there until it's perfect. All of that is all wrapped up around judgment, judging yourself and worry about other people judging you because you, for example, have this public image and you can't put this thing out until it's perfect because what will other people say and how will other people judge it, and other people may not like it or other people may not like me. We have to be clear on why we're using this excuse and getting caught up in the waiting game, a game which I believe we always come out on the losing end of. Do not get caught up in this idea of perfection. This isn't saying, of course, that you want to put out shoddy work, but you do want to put out that first draft, that MVP, as they call it, and especially in the technology space, that minimum viable product, MVP. Most of us don't use that term. We think, oh no, I absolutely want to put out the best. I did that with my first business, invested a ton of money putting out the best, when really I could have started small and kept increasing, getting feedback from the audience. What does it need? What is it like? How is this working? What's the user experience like? Instead, we want to go out with what we say is perfect or what feels to our egos like perfect before we do this thing, when really you can go for it, put it out there, your best at that time, and it's always going to change. And that's the thing too, especially in an online business, but any business really. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, even if it's perfect in that moment, you're still going to have to change eventually. So it's never going to stay the same. It's never going to stay quote unquote perfect because you have to evolve. You cannot stand still in business. You can't stand still, certainly, if you're a creative. You're always creating, coming up with something new, adding to whatever that product is. Most things you can't just put out there and leave it out there. Everything grows and changes. Otherwise, it's dying, right? If you're not growing, you're dying. That's true with your business. If you're not growing, expanding, developing, reshaping in some way, you're dying. So this idea of perfection, even if it were possible, maybe you'll have it for that moment, but there's no reason to wait for that because you're always going to be changing. You should always be improving. So don't lose the waiting game just because you're caught up in this idea of perfection. Another thing that I think a lot of us are actually waiting for when we say we're waiting for something to fill in the excuse is permission. And it's not even permission from ourselves. It's permission from other people. Now, what could that permission look like? It could look like some kind of affirmation from someone that you care about and love and that you really think would support you, even if you don't say they should. But you think, for example, if you say, I'm very close to my parents and I think that they should support me on this thing, or I would imagine that they would want to support me. Well, maybe your parents don't get it, whatever you're doing. They can't give you the affirmation in the way that you're looking for. They can't give you the quote unquote permission to do the thing that you're waiting to do because you need some kind of validation or affirmation from these people. There are going to be times, I've said this before, especially in business, especially with new business, where you're going to have to walk alone. I always say support is sexy. You know, there's other people that you can get around to help you, but there will be periods where you have to walk alone and you have to be courageous enough to do that. You can't get stuck waiting for permission, especially from people who may never give it to you. They may give you love. They may give you support in other ways. They may not give you the permission you're looking for to do that thing. And the reason too is you don't need their permission. You have to give yourself that permission to move forward. Give yourself permission to stop waiting on whatever it is you say you're waiting for. On whatever it is you say you're waiting for. Give yourself permission. I can do this. I'm going to try this. I'm going to go for it. People are always more likely to hitch their wagon to a train that's already moving, right? It's how it is. It's who we are. We want to be a part of things that are already in motion. Not people who want to take advantage of you, just even friends, family. Sometimes people have to see it in action, even for yourself. Sometimes you need to see it in action to truly believe that you can do it. So how can you wait for permission from other people who have nothing to do with you, who don't have the vision? It's your vision, right? How can we sit and wait for permission from other people when we even need to sometimes see it in action to truly believe what it can be, to truly understand how it can grow? I think about me with the podcast when I first started, and I told a few friends, close friends who were in the industry and know me well, and even accountability people, I think I'm going to do a podcast that's going to be 5 days a week for women entrepreneurs. I want to interview people and talk a little bit about what I'm experiencing as an entrepreneur, how it can get lonely, et cetera, and the idea that support is sexy. Having it all doesn't mean doing it all alone. I remember a very good friend of mine who actually also has a podcast. The first thing he said was, that's a lot. 5 days a week, that's going to be a lot. Now, I've heard other podcasters who do podcasts 7 days a week who say they went through the same thing. So it was sort of interesting for me to experience that. And it was great that I sort of had a little bit of a window into that because of this other podcaster sharing his experience with it. But my friend, again, loves me, wants to protect me, doesn't want me to get in over my head. First thing he said was, that's a lot. You sure you want to do a lot? People don't really listen that much. And then this long list of what seemed like logical reasons. I was a little hurt by it. I didn't take it personal. I know it was feedback and again, trying to support me. But I did feel like, wow, if I was sitting and waiting for permission from that person, to this day, I probably either wouldn't have started my podcast, I would have waited forever until it was at a certain point before I did it, or it would just be a weekly podcast. And here's the thing, even if I were to change it now and go to a weekly podcast, I committed to 5 days a week, wanting to offer this content to women because I felt the reason I was doing it was because I felt it was something that wasn't in the market as far as I knew. I didn't feel like I had a podcast to listen to that was by a woman entrepreneur, featuring only women entrepreneurs, for women entrepreneurs, 5 days a week, full of value, full of great content, something that I could go to each and every day during the week, get caught up on weekends and listen to. I wanted that content, and I knew other women who in some way, they may not have said a podcast, wanted that content. So why would I wait for this other person's permission to do this, even if I did it as an experiment? That's my thing. I'm going to do it for at least a year, do it at this pace, see how it goes, see how I need to change, see how I need to grow, right? Because I knew in the beginning it certainly was not perfect. Go back and listen to that first episode. It's good, but it ain't perfect. But I decided to give myself permission to give this a try, to go all in. And when you do give yourself permission, you gotta go all in. Otherwise, you will never believe that it's possible. So what does go all in look like? It's going to be different depending on your business. For me, it's staying up late and doing the interviews and using a lot of time and putting a lot of time and energy and saying no to some other things to focus on this. This is the one thing, right? We've talked about that too. What is going to be the one thing that you're going to focus on for right now? For me, it's the Support is Sexy podcast. I've given myself permission to do this, and I am focused on doing this. So do not lose the waiting game, waiting for permission from other people. Give that permission to yourself. You deserve to do this, and you can do this. And one of the last things that I'll mention that I think some of us are waiting for, and we mask it as other things, proof that it will be successful. We are afraid of failure. In a way, it might be natural because who really wants to fail? Some people say they want to fail. I don't think they want to fail. I think they're not afraid of failing. They want to learn from their experiences. They want to try and try again. They want to find out what's not working. But no one, I think, really wants to fail. You're doing it, even the failures along the way, because what you ultimately want is to succeed. But some of us get caught up in the waiting game because we're waiting for proof that this will be successful. And that proof never really comes. I think of even all the huge companies. I was listening to a Tony Robbins podcast recently and listened to the CEO of SoulCycle and the founders of Warby Parker and the founder of Airbnb, who said that for Airbnb, he and his partner started his business, or quote unquote launched his business 3 or 4 different times before it took off. First of all, it wasn't perfect for sure. You have to listen to that. Also, they didn't wait for permission. They just decided to do it. But to this point, proof of it being successful, there would be no way for them to know because no one was doing this exact thing. How would they know there would be proof that it would be successful until they launched and proved it to themselves? So whether you're doing an innovative or a disruptive business, or you're doing something that's been done forever, even public relations, you can't wait for proof that it will be successful. What would that even look like? Someone saying to you, oh yeah, you can do it. That's going to be perfect. Well, that's really permission. It's not proof that it will be successful. Even if you do the numbers, other people have done the numbers, have a business plan, have a vision statement, have all those things in place, you still don't have proof that it will be successful until you prove it. So you cannot sit and wait for this proof to come along from some magical place or a magical person or someone you think is going to bless this as this will absolutely be successful. It does not exist. You have to go out there and make it happen. Do not work for some magical proof that you will not fail. And if you fail, it is, as we always say, a part of the process. It happens and it teaches you what doesn't work. You failed at this, that doesn't work. You failed at that, okay, next time I know that's not a good idea. You invested all this money, next time you realize I didn't really have to invest that much. You learn as you go. You don't have proof beforehand that it will be successful, but you prove along the way this is a good idea. You prove along the way how you can make this work. You prove along the way that you can do it. And you prove along the way that it can be successful because you keep striving for that. Do not get caught up in the waiting game, waiting for proof that what you're doing will be successful. All right, so thank you all so much for listening. You know, I appreciate you as always. Make sure you go to supportissexypodcast.com so you can hear other episodes and catch up on inspiring women entrepreneurs. We have some amazing, if I must say so myself, some amazing interviews coming up, truly powerful women, all different stages of business. I'm so excited about the people who have been on the podcast in the past and who are coming up. It's a really great mix of people who get, I'm very touched by how open people get during the conversations. I don't think that's all me. I think it's the space that I've created for people to be able to do that people being these fabulous women entrepreneurs who have lives and experiences and letdowns and tragedies and all kinds of things that they're willing to share with our audience. So be sure to go to supportsexypodcast.com so you can catch up on past ones. And wherever you're listening right now, don't do me a favor, do yourself a favor and subscribe to the podcast. This way, whenever you do get to listen, it'll be there on your phone, on your device, on your computer. So be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening. We're on SoundCloud, Google Play, iTunes, or Apple Podcasts, as it's called now, Stitcher. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode. I want to make sure as many people as possible get this content, share this content with your friends. It's really important to me. I don't know if you all follow me on social media, but if you do, on @Elayne Fluker, I posted recently that my goal, I'm not waiting for this. I'm giving myself permission. My goal is to reach 100 million women with the message that support is sexy. And for me to do that, I know that I need support, and you can help me reach that number. It sounds to me at least like a huge number, but it's possible because people share information, put it out there. It might even be a conversation you have with your daughter tonight about how she needs to accept more support. I may never know about that, but I'm going to count you and your daughter as 2 people towards my 100 million. All right. So I want you to subscribe to the podcast, share it with people. I appreciate the comments, the emails. Keep it coming. I love it. And I love getting in touch with and engaging with you all. So again, just to reiterate, stop waiting. The time is now. Our lives are a speck in the universe, right? And the amount of time that we're all here. And I'm saying this to myself too. It's time to get busy. Time to make it happen. Now is the time. No more waiting. No more excuses. Get over all of these things that we're waiting for, the true reasons, the perfection, the permission, the proof. It's time to make it happen. Why not now? That's what you have to ask yourself. We can come up with reasons why we should wait, why this. Why not now? You can do it now. There's no reason not to do it. Stop waiting. Okay, so thank you again for listening. I truly appreciate you. And now you know what to do. Go out there and create something sexy. And I'll talk to you soon. Take care.